Hi,
Hi,
I'm Nikki,
and I'm Isabel.
and welcome to our channel Young and Adult. Today on Young and Adult, Isabel and I are going to be discussing Heart of Mist by Helen Scheuerer. I chose to get Heart of Mist out from the library because I've seen a lot about it on Instagram. Helen is an Australian author who also runs an online literary magazine called The Writer's Edit, and her magazine has a lot of tips and tricks for writers and something that I look at all the time and get a lot of information from. So when I saw that her book had come out, I got it from the library and I was really keen to read it. Heart of Mist is a young adult fantasy about 19-year-old Bleak. Bleak is an alcoholic and her guardian has recently passed away, so she feels as though she's all alone in the world. And then out of nowhere, the King's Guard arrive in her hometown and they tell her that she's been summoned by the king and she is handcuffed, put on a horse and led away to the castle. Along the way, Bleak is attacked and almost raped by one of the King's Guard, but she is rescued by the Valia kindred and their queen, Henrietta. Bleak is taken by the Valia kindred back to their home, which is the Valia forest, where she meets Henry's mother and the matriarch of the Valians, who explains to her that she possesses a type of magic which allows her to read minds, and the mother matriarch is going to instruct Bleak on how she can become in control of that magic and then hopefully work together with the Valians to use it against the king. We also get some insights into some other characters in the story, such as the commander of the King's Guard, Commander Swinton, and also the stable master's son, Dash. The kingdom in Heart of Mist is threatened by a mysterious and poisonous mist that is sweeping the land. The number one thing that everybody is worried about is this mist taking over and eventually being the destruction of everybody who lives in the realm. Heart of Mist is also the first book in a trilogy called the Ormere Chronicles.
I did enjoy it. It was quite everywhere, and it got to the point where you had a lot of questions during the end. But throughout the majority of the book, it was enjoyable, and a lot of things did get answered.
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand that Heart of Mist is the first in this series. So the first 2/3 of the book, it seemed quite slow. There was a lot of world building, but then toward the end, suddenly all these questions opened up and the ending really left me hanging for the next book.
I think the world building was good. It was quite confusing because you had the multiple continents and they kind of kept getting fired at you, but you didn't really understand it. But I think the ones that we needed to take care of were explained, and like all of the king's territory and where the Valiant people are, that was all quite clearly described.
Yeah, I think the forest is where a lot of the world building was, and it gave you a really good, sense of where the Valiant people were living.
A lot of the times I could actually, in my head see where the characters were. She was so annoying. She was like a drunko weirdo. I don't think she was meant to be the most lovable character in the world, but I wish there was more to love for our main character. I like to have a nice main character. She was rude to everyone. I hated her relationship with Bren. Like, I had a love-hate relationship with her, because sometimes she was like, oh yeah, cool, badass girl. And then sometimes she was like,
yeah, I think she didn't instigate any of the action. It all happened to her. So what I really did appreciate was that there was a great cast of supporting characters. The description of Commander Swinton, I just kept seeing Lord Farquaad from Shrek. Every time they mentioned him, I saw Lord Farquaad. I couldn't get it out of my mind. So sorry. Sorry, Swinton, but all I could see was Lord Farquaad. What about what seems to be everybody's favourite character, Fiore? What did you think of
Fiore!
him?
I want to call him Fiore. Fiore.
He was cool.
Yeah, I liked him. I think he was cool. I feel like he was a good match for Swinton. That was a good balance.
The thing I liked about Fiore is that he was one of the only characters, aside from Bren as well, that was nice to Bleak, you know.
Oh, can we please talk about Bren? Oh my goodness. Bleak was terrible to him. Like, I loved his accent. He's like, are you alright, matey? And then she's like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, she was such a
terrible person to him.
And after all of the kindness he'd showed her, and then suddenly he starts, getting attracted to another lady. Every time she thinks about it, but at least he's happy. I'm like, really? You're the one who made his life terrible.
One of the main things, I suppose, that I felt kind of pulled me out of the story a bit was the names of things. So some of the characters have very normal, everyday to us names, and then others have more sort of fantasy names, but then you've got names of places, and I feel as though too many characters and places were named. Everything was given a name, even though we didn't know who that person or that place was, and sometimes that confused me a bit.
Yeah, I remember when Bleak first went in with the Valians, we knew about Henry and Athene, and then suddenly they're like, oh yeah, this chick Marvel. And I'm like, who's Marvel? Has she been mentioned before? Do I know who this girl is? I don't really care, because she never gets mentioned again. Bleak was from, do you say Angove or Angove?
Angove.
Angove. And people kept calling her Angovian. And then one point in the book, I was like, oh, Angove. Anchove, anchovies, anchovian. Oh! So every time they said Angovian, I was like, yeah, anchovian. Get those veggies on your plate. Are anchovies even a veggie?
Anchovies are a fish.
They're a fish.
But that
I was
fits.
thinking
That
about a
fits
joke.
with Bleak, because, she's
Oh,
from the
yeah. Oh, and at last I see the light. I think it was good. Like, I had no problems with the writing. The one thing I did pick up on was they said moan a lot. Like, maybe it was just because for some reason, when you have those words that just stick out when you read them? Moan was one of those words for this book. And every time they said moan, I picked up on it. And it was only in the first half, but they said it a lot and it was really annoying me. It was like, she stifled a moan. She moaned. Oh.
I didn't notice. I didn't pick up on that at all. I didn't think the writing was repetitive, and I do have the same thing as you. Sometimes I do pick up on it. I thought the writing was great. I thought it was really easy to read. I knew what was going on. There were a couple of tiny little things that are just like inconsistencies and like little plot errors, which of course always annoy me. But yeah, the actual writing, I thought, that the writing was really good.
Yeah. There are a lot of point of views, which I think made it a lot more enjoyable. Commander Swinton, he was meant to be, from Bleak's point of view, he wasn't like very nice or anything. He was the bad guy. But when you actually heard his point of view, you started to like him more, and I almost liked him more than Bleak.
That's a really good point.
Like, I really thought the point of views really brought it through, because you could feel what everybody else was feeling. Because when you have just one character, you don't know how the others are feeling, and there's always a different perspective from each character.
And the other thing, I guess, just building on your point, is that for Bleak, just like her name, her life is bleak. But then when you get suddenly a different character's point of view, especially we've got 10-year-old Dash, it's lightening the mood a bit. It's changing up the pace. So it's not all doom and gloom. You're getting something a bit different.
Sometimes I did just wish people's point of views would end, though, because I wanted to get to other people's points of views. I love Dash and Elena. Couldn't get enough of them.
As we know, this is a series, and I know that Helen is already working on the next one. In fact, I think she's up to the editing stage, so the next one will be coming out next year. Are we excited?
I want answers. That's how I feel mostly. It wasn't, Heart of Mist didn't get me super excited, but a part of me would feel empty if I didn't know what happened. And it is only going to be a trilogy, so there's only going to be 2 more books, so I think I can manage that.
I am excited. I think as I was reading it, I was thinking, oh, where is this going? But when it got to the end and it left all those cliffhangers, multiple cliffhangers, I think, yeah, I am excited to know what's going to happen, and I'll definitely be picking up the next book.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens to Dash.
Okay.
Oh.
I'm giving Heart of Mist a 4 stars. What about you?
I'm going to have to agree with that and say 4.
Well done, Helen. We loved it.